Welcome to this explainer. Today we're jumping straight into a fascinating excerpt from the Mahabharata, specifically the Subhadra Harana Parva. We're going to unpack a deeply complex ancient marriage dilemma. Now, if you know the epic, you already know it's never just about the battles, right? It is literally packed with political maneuvering and super intricate social codes. So let's explore exactly how these legendary figures navigated what was essentially a highly strategic cultural puzzle.
But before we get into the details, we really have to ask ourselves, how did these ancient texts portray the unexpected intersection of romance, strict warrior codes, and calculated political strategy? Well, as you'll see, matters of the heart were completely tied up with matters of state. The so-called rules of engagement for royal marriage were incredibly complex, fiercely pragmatic, and honestly, by modern standards, sometimes pretty shocking.
All right, Section 1, the Grand Mountain Festival.
Our source text opens on the Raivataka mountain, and it sets a scene of just immense wealth and joy. We're dropping right into a massive festival of the Vrishnis and the Andhakas. The heroes of the Bhojas, Vrishnis and Andhakas, are literally giving away fortunes to thousands of brahmanas. Just picture it. The text describes mansions decked with gems, and many an artificial tree of gaudy hue. The atmosphere is totally electric. You've got musicians striking up in concert, dancers, vocalists, and the youth riding around in these incredible gold-decked cars. It's a vibrant, massive gathering of citizens by the hundreds and thousands.
To really grasp the sheer scale of this event, just look at this staggering who's who of the Vrishni race in attendance. We're talking absolute VIPs. You've got Lord Valarama, who the text wonderfully notes is roving at will, hilarious with drink, right alongside his wife Raivataka. Then there's the powerful king Ugrasena with his 1,000 wives. You've got warriors like Rakmaneya and Shambha, also excited with drink, decked out in floral wreaths and costly attire, looking absolutely celestial. And the list just goes on. Akrura, Sarna, Gada, Satyaki, all accompanied by their wives and bands of singers. It's an absolute powerhouse celebration of life and prosperity.
Moving on to Section 2, Love at First Sight.
So right in the middle of this vibrant and, let's be real, pretty drunken festival, the narrative pulls a brilliant shift. It focuses in on two wandering heroes, Krishna and Arjuna. And this is where the catalyst of our story hits. While taking in all the sights, Arjuna spots Krishna's sister, Bhadra. She's decked with every ornament, surrounded by her maids, and she instantly catches his eye. The text doesn't beat around the bush here. As soon as Arjuna beholds her, he is immediately possessed by the god of desire.
And this leads to such a great character moment. Krishna sees Arjuna just completely captivated, and he smiles, playfully teasing the supposedly stoic warrior. He asks, "How is this? Can the heart of one that rangeth the woods be agitated by the god of desire?" He then formally introduces her as his favorite sister, Bhadra, and basically tells Arjuna, "Hey, tell me if your heart is set on her, because if it is, I'll speak to my father myself."
Arjuna does not hesitate. His response is intense and immediate. He obviously feels the romance, sure, but he also sees the immense strategic value of the union. He says, "If this thy sister, this maid of the Vrishni race, becometh my wife, truly may I win prosperity in everything." He then straight up asks Krishna how he can get her, vowing, "To get her, I will achieve anything that is achievable by man."
Which brings us to Section 3, the Marriage Dilemma.
Okay, so how exactly does an ancient Kshatriya warrior actually secure a royal bride while staying within the rules of society? Well, Krishna lays out the options. He starts by bringing up the concept of self-choice, or swayambara. As you likely know, this is the standard ordained method where the bride is presented with eligible suitors and she chooses her husband herself.
But here's the twist. Krishna offers this surprisingly pragmatic, you might even say cynical warning. He points out that relying on the self-choice is actually a huge strategic risk. Why? Because the outcome is entirely doubtful, since, as he puts it, they do not know the girl's temper and disposition. Basically, if they leave it up to her, she might just pick someone else, and then Arjuna loses both the romantic prospect and, crucially, the political alliance.
This lays out the stark choices facing our heroes so brilliantly. On one hand, you have the self-choice. It's an ordained custom, absolutely, but one with an uncertain outcome that completely relies on the bride's unknown preferences. On the other hand, you have the alternative Krishna introduces, forcible abduction. Now, I know that sounds incredibly jarring to our modern sensibilities, but the text explicitly states that for brave Kshatriyas, a forcible abduction for the purpose of marriage is actually, quote, applauded, as the learned have said. So what we're looking at here is a purely strategic evaluation of ancient cultural norms.
Now for Section 4, the Kshatriya solution.
So with those two stark options on the table, the massive risk of a democratic choice versus the certainty of a culturally sanctioned taking, Krishna offers a wildly cunning piece of advice. In a deeply realpolitik maneuver, he tells Arjuna, "Therefore, O Arjuna, carry away this my beautiful sister by force, for who knows what she may do at a self-choice." I mean, it's fascinating, right? Krishna literally advises his friend to abduct his own sister. It guarantees the marriage, secures the vital alliance with the Vrishnis, completely eliminates the risk of rejection, and somehow, miraculously, it still operates within the bounds of what is considered applauded behavior for a brave warrior class in this specific context.
And they do not waste any time. The execution of this plan is remarkably swift. First, Krishna and Arjuna immediately lock in this aggressive abduction strategy. But second, they don't just act blindly. They send speedy messengers straight away from the mountain to Indraprastha. And third, the whole point of these messengers is to inform Yudhishthira of their plan to secure his official ascent.
Now, this right here is the absolute crucial point. This planned abduction wasn't some rogue, heat-of-the-moment operation cooked up by two reckless heroes. Not at all. It was a calculated, geopolitical marriage plan. As the text concludes, the strong-armed Yudhishthira, as soon as he heard it, gave his assent to it. The leader of the Pandavas heard the strategy, fully understood the political and social mechanics at play, and officially greenlit the entire operation.
As we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this provocative thought. You know, when we read ancient texts, it is just so easy to project our modern values onto them. But this excerpt perfectly demonstrates how martial history and mythology frame deeply pragmatic, highly calculating, and yes, sometimes shocking solutions to matters of the heart. A festival of joy literally becomes the staging ground for a calculated abduction, one sanctioned by kings and applauded by warriors, all to secure a vital alliance. It completely blurs the lines between romance, strict warrior codes, and raw political strategy. So keep this dynamic in mind the next time you delve into ancient lore. The motives are almost always more complex than they first appear. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.